Okay, at 6 o'clock, I'll call this meeting of Budget and Finance to order. Everybody should have a copy of the minutes. Please look over those. Did see that at the very top of the first page, it has the May 18th date. So that just needs to be changed, uh, changed to the correct date. But I think that the minutes themselves are the correct ones. All right, I have a motion to approve the minutes by Bubba Gregory. Do I have a second? Second by Jeff Gregory. All in favor, say aye. All right, minutes are approved. Next, we'll go to trustees balance, page 4 of your packets. Reminder for those who may be watching this later, these documents are all available on the county website, TriSoCountyTN.gov. And these trustee balances are uh, cash on hand. These are not the actual fund balance numbers. Are there any questions on the trustee balances? Mr. Ford. Okay, for motion to approve the trustee balances by Mr. Ford. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Atwood. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, those are approved. Now to page 5, the year-to-year comparison. You'll see property tax finished the year at 105.8% of budgeted compared to 105.1% previous year. Revenues in the 101, 85.6% of total versus 87.3% last year. Expenses in the 101, 80.2% of budgeted versus 71.1% the previous year. 111, 104.9% of budget on property tax, 36.4% on revenues, 29.2% on expenses. Of course, when we get into the financial statements, of course, these numbers reflect the grant, including the grant totals. So we'll see those change slightly. If there are no questions there, move to Mr. Gully.
Just a couple, Miss Amy, I guess the revenue side, June of 2025, are those final numbers from the June 2025 versus these are not 2026 final?
I think those were also estimated numbers at that time. I didn't update them.
So those numbers are still unestimated from that year comparison. Only reason like the 118, 20% different in revenue, draw there. That seems to be a pretty large difference in revenue stream. Am I missing a change? Did we change the amount of, because that's just a percent of revenue is what we're talking about.
Well, with the 118, honestly, I would go to the fact that we switched to a third-party billing, and we just started receiving that revenue again last month. So I would definitely say that that's a major change in that fund.
So in what you're saying, that third-party billing, that 90.7 should increase once that number comes in. That is just a large difference there in that case. That was the main one I wanted to look at, and that kind of, I guess, when you start looking at the 101 in expenses side of things, I mean, when we're saying we've already spent 9% more of the total budget this year than we spent of last year's budget, but yet the revenues came in less than they did percentage last year. Those are things that start to make me just lift my eyes and say, whoa, what's going on there? Just things to draw our attention to. Spending more this year, bringing in less of percentage, just a thought.
Understood. Does anybody else have any questions in the year-to-year comparison? All right, seeing none, we'll go to the financial statements, beginning with the 101, starting on page 6 and going through page 9. 101 revenues. Total numbers are on page 8, 85.6% of budget. Although when you remove the grant line items, it becomes 102.2% of budgeted revenues. Total expenditures on page 9, 80.2%. Although when you remove the grant line items, that goes to 88.8%. And of course, these numbers will change a little bit as there are some payables and receivables still outstanding. Mr. Gully.
4320. Miss Amy, that bank excise tax come in at almost 200%. Is there something that was weird this year?
I do not know that answer.
Are there any other questions in the 101? All right, seeing none, page 10, breakdown of the sheriff expenses out of the 101. Courtroom security at 41.7% of expenditures. Sheriff's Department at 92.4%. SROs at 98.6%. Drug enforcement 95.8%. Jail at 88.9%. And workhouse at 91.4%. Does anyone have any questions in the sheriff's expenditures? All right, seeing none, page 11, 111. Total revenues at 36.4%, although when you take out the grant line items, that becomes 101.7%. So the big numbers there are the multimodal and the Ward School grants. Expenditures 29.2%, although take out the grant line items, and 73.2%. Does anyone have any questions in the 111? Seeing none, page 12, breakdown of the sheriff's expenses out of the 111. Total expenditures 96.7%. All line items. Deputies is a little over 2,000 above the budgeted line item, but everything else is below. Does anyone have any questions in the 111 sheriff spending? All right, seeing none, page 13, 116, solid waste. Total revenues at 108.4%. Again, property tax there, 105.8%. Yeah, I'm same as pointing out the 4115 there, that 6451 should be a negative 6451. So what that would make that roughly 856 something. Okay, so that 108.4 percentage won't look as good, but it will still be well above budgeted revenues. Total expenditures at 78.9%. Looks like our waste disposal was considerably less than. Does that run behind at all? Okay. That will update later on as well, apparently. So that 78.9% number will change when we get final numbers on that. Any questions in the 116? All right, next, 118 ambulance service, page 14. Total revenues at 90.7%. Again, the biggest item there is the patient charges, which, Ms. Amy already mentioned about the change in the third party billing being one of the main reasons that one is off. Total expenditures at 88.8% of budget. So looks like the ambulance still had a year in which revenue outstrips expenses. Is always a good year. Pages 15 and 16, you'll see the line by line breakdown on the ambulance service budget. Of course, overtime pay there came in at 93.5%. The part-time at 57.6%. Personnel at 98.9%. Does anyone have any questions on 118? Mr. Gully?
Not 118, but I'd like to make a comment back on 116 for a second.
Sure.
Just as you look over these, you hear a lot of I guess we would say, unpopular comments about our convenience center and things of that nature that get thrown around. Mr. Slee runs a really good budget. Waste has a cost. You know, we budgeted a 1.2 million in waste management for this county. If our public is doing their part, each member's paying their part. We hear a lot of, why do I have to do this? Can't I take a trailer full of this? Everything has its cost, and I appreciate, I want to put a plug in for what Mr. Slee does in running that convenience center. It's clean, it's neat. When you go through there, it's organized. A lot of work has gone into it the last couple of years to improve the flow, and it runs and flows well. I hope our public, I know there's always things to complain about, but I hope our public sees that it is running well. It has a cost, and there's a reason that they look at your tag. There's a reason that they go through the extents to ensure that the right trash is in the right spot. It comes at a cost of others, even though we want it to be quick and convenient. But when you look at $1.2 million budget of expenditures, he runs a good budget and does a good job. I want to throw that plug that way.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. All right. Did anyone have any questions in the ambulance service line items? All right. Page 17, 121. This is the core civic pass-through money. And again, for those who may be watching or may watch this later, this is money the county receives, but really gets nothing from. The state pays it to us. We turn around and pay it to core civic. It just shows on our bottom line as technically as revenue, although we don't get any benefit from it. Mr. Gully?
Miss Amy, I've always looked at it as just pass-through money. How far behind is this? It's budgeted at 73 million and it's coming in at 49 million currently. How far behind do those payments run?
I've got payments for May and June pending right now. And I think they budget at full capacity, but of course they're not at full capacity. So I think that's the difference between the numbers.
So the 49 does or does not include that May and June pending?
It does not.
Doesn't. So it's 2 months behind right now. This number is 2 months behind. So that would be
roughly about 12 million pending.
out there. Okay.
Okay. Any further questions in the 121? Mr. Ford? Use your mic, please, sir. Use your mic, please.
Pardon,
Okay, you're on.
have we heard anything from our attorney, whether our negotiations are,
That's something that I imagine will come up at work session, that's not something that we take up here at this committee level. So I don't have an answer. I have no idea. Like I said, I'm sure that question will be asked at the next meeting. All right, page 18, 122, County Drug Fund. You'll see the revenues and very little expenditure there over the course of the year. Pages 19 and 20, 127 and 128, remaining ARPA funding. Of course, in the current budget year now, those items are being closed out and those funds moved over to the 101 and 171, excuse me. And then page 21, 151 debt service. Total revenues, 103.8%. And total expenditures at 99.3%. Looks like the only thing that was different there was the trustees commission was less than budgeted. Are there any questions in 127, 128, or 151? Last but not least, page 22, 171 capital projects. See total revenues, 127,495, and an ending balance in the capital projects fund of $2,395,239. Of course, 2 million of that is in CDs currently. One that will mature in August, one that will mature in February 27, and another that will mature in February of 28. With the one that matures next month, our August meeting will be on August the 17th, so we can decide then if we want to, what we want to do with it, or do y'all want to just go ahead and make a decision on that this evening? The CD that matures in August matures on August the 23rd. Our meeting date is August the 17th. So we can either wait and decide next month what we want to do with it, or go ahead and make a decision tonight at the committee's pleasure. Mr. Gully.
I thought that's what you were mentioning, because I was actually just looking at it. It'd be my opinion that we roll that 500,000 back into a CD for another 6-month term. I don't think there's anything currently that's majorly pending to spend that money on. If we can make 3.5%, I think that one's actually growing at 4 on that one, but it may not gain at 4% again, but yet we could see what happens. I think it's worth myself. I put it in a motion that we plan to go on and roll that money and the interest from that money back into ACD.
All right, I have a motion to go ahead and roll the CD back over, and second by Ms. Atwood. Mr. Dennis.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
would like to speak to the motion.
Yeah, please.
The only thing is keep in mind the ladder. We set it up originally 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years. Keep the ladder. wouldn't necessarily let this roll off from the 6 month and put it back on a 6 month. I'd put it back on a 12 month. That way you ladder it. You've got another one coming due in 6 months, then another coming due in 6 months, and then and keep that ladder going. One of the rates that I've saw, the institution that has this CD currently has a 13-month special paying at 4% roughly. Just something to look at.
I withdraw my motion to Mr. Dennis.
Well, or I was gonna say, do you want to amend it to have it roll to whatever the most favorable term would be?
I withdraw my motion to Mr. Dennis.
Okay. Okay, the motion is in the second are both withdrawn.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Dennis.
I would make a motion that we take the proceeds of the funds as stated by Mr. Gully, set them back up on a 12-month or a 13-month if the term is better, and allow interest to continue to pay to 171 from there on.
Okay. Clarify your motion one more time, if you don't mind, sir.
Okay. In regard to CD 41235
Right.
that matures on August the 23rd of 26. Based on the rates as of today, they may be better in a month, but based on the rates as of today, a 6-month term CD is going to pay less than what this 13-month CD is going to pay. And the reason that we should look at the 13-month CD in the first place, even if the 6 months was paying better, would be with the original motion for these funds to allow a ladder to be made. And what I mean by a ladder is that every 6 months to a year, we have funds rolling that come available for emergencies that may arise. But if no emergencies exist at that time, that the ladder continues to mature and the interest continues to go to 171 indefinitely until the need for this money comes available.
Okay, so you're talking about rolling this over into another city, but the interest gained in this one, moving it into 171.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, I'm just making sure I'm understanding your meeting.
and forgive me, the interest that's being accrued on these CDs,
Mhm.
it's going to 171 now.
Okay,
And in my state, I would say that it would continue when these funds mature, that they continue, the interest accrued continue to go to 171.
okay, that's where I want to say. So still rolling the 500 into another CD, but the interest goes into 171. Okay, I'll make sure I was clear.
The principal stays on the CD, the interest goes to 171.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And you're still second on that. Okay. I apologize for my confusion. But I want to make sure I was clear. All right, have a motion in a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. If there are no other questions in the financial statements, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial statements. Sorry, Leslie, should beat you to it. Motion by Ms. Atwood, second by Ms. Overman. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Being the first of the month, we have no budget amendments. Move to other. Is there any topics that anyone on the committee wishes to address this evening? All right, saying not, is there any public comment from, Mr. Ford? Any public comment? I see no public comment. A motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Ms. Dennis, we are adjourned. Thank y'all.